Hello, so I wanted to make a super duper quick video, as quick as I could possibly make, video about speed reading. What I've learned, how I turned that into a program, and the whole shebang. So first things first, I spent about $80 and got myself a really in-depth course on speed reading. Now this covered about 14 different topics of speed reading. They were each like 2 to 3 hours of course length. Gave me a wide variety between the science, this thing, that thing. A lot of people say it doesn't exist. Basically, their main argument that it doesn't exist is that your mind can't actually comprehend a certain amount of words that fast. And the reason is that you're taught to read by talking out loud the words and pronunciating them on the page. Thus, your reading speed is limited by the amount of words you can speak. Like right now, I can't talk faster than a rapper, which talks about 250 to 300 words per minute. Something in there is the average reading speed because we can only read at about, or talk about that thing. Anyway, regardless, that's why they say it doesn't exist. The main reason that you can do it is that you can, instead of just focusing on reading each individual word at the same paces, they use a lot of little shortcuts, things like only speaking or pronunciating the key words of a sentence to get the overall gist of the sentence. You could also do things like skipping over information you don't need, skimming. These are a lot of the techniques that you can use in combination to read books faster. So this course went through all these different informations, spent a whole bunch of time. I spent about 3 months going through the online course, and I learned a whole bunch of different stuff, and I compiled it all into a single method. Everyone had in the course, there was about 10 different instructors, each had their own method of reading books, and I thought that was interesting, and it was really annoying because I had to come up with my own method using all of their templates and putting it all together. So I created my own program. I turned it into a computer Windows application because I thought it would be even more difficult and more interesting to make something awesome. But this program does it all, and it's awesome. I'm gonna walk through you right now the gist of the program. So learning takes place pretty simple. There's a 4-step process for learning that's general. You've got your overview, your preview section, where you're getting an idea of what you're learning about, you're setting goals for yourself, you're asking questions, you're getting a preview of the material. Second step is actually absorbing it, that's listening to your lectures, it's actually sitting down and reading. This third step for that is recording based off of what you absorbed. That's from your lectures, that's from reading, however you get this. From this video, for example, this is right now absorbing the information. So then the third step would be recording, writing down notes, different ideas, key ideas, things like that. Then the fourth step is reflecting on those ideas, and that is the learning process. Super simple, super easy, and then I wanted to apply that to the reading technique to improve my comprehension, and I wanted something that would work a little bit more fluidly with reading so I wouldn't have to do a lot of the guesswork of how do I do this, that, and the other. So here's the program, super simple. You've got a page, you just create a new book, open the book, give it a title. This is just kind of general information for the book. Each thing has a little bit of different things. A lot of this is just a whole bunch of math that's happening behind the scenes, and then it's displayed in little small numbers and keeping track of time. So it's really just a tracking and pacing program. So that's about it. You can input how many pages are in the book or how many pages you are reading of the book. And then you put in your goal words per minute. This is about how many words you want to be reading. The average reader reads about 250 to 300 words per minute. I try to hit 600 or so words per minute, depending on what I'm reading. That's about where I'm comfortable. That's a casual pace for me. So then the second part of this you see is the timing. This is basically putting in breaks and time for you to stretch, get some water, and think about the ideas as you're reading. So I'm including the taking notes and the reflecting part of the process into the break timer. So you've got your 25-minute, 5-minute, that's the normal Pomodoro technique for reading. So then we have the sections thing on the far right, and that is basically if you're trying to read by section or reading by chapter, however you prefer. All that does is it puts in more of the preview sections as you're reading. So then we'll press start, and now you've got your first page, which is an overview page. Now this is going to be going through, flipping through the book, and you're going to be looking at about 1 second per page. You're not actually reading anything. Remember, this is the first step of the learning process. You're just getting a preview of the material. So you're going through, you're looking at the structure, the Gestalt of the book. That's a fancy German word for it that people use in the speed reading lingo. So you're going through 1 second per page. Okay, this is chapter heading. This is where the information is kept. He's got a nice summary here. Awesome, great, we'll use that later. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, he's got these pages that are separate for the sections. This is where each section is. Keep going. Okay, great, awesome. Then you go into the next step being a preview. This is the preview for the first section that we put in, and then it's only about 30 pages or so. So you just go through that page, and the goal for the preview is, again, you're not actually reading the material, you're just getting an overview, just getting a preview of the material. You're skimming at this point. Now the goal for this is to preview the section ahead, and you only want to read the first paragraph of each chapter and the first sentence of each paragraph that follows that for those chapters. And as you're doing this, you'll see there's only about 3 to 4 sentences in each page outside of the first page of the paragraph. So you're just gonna keep going, keep going. Okay, great. Now you're done the preview, take a little break. This is where you can get water, you can start taking notes, and you can kind of get up and stretch if you want. Then keep going. Next step is reading. Now you're actually reading for the allotted time that you set earlier at the beginning, so about 25 minutes is what I usually set it for. And during that 25-minute timer, you'll notice that at the top we have a current pages, and this is going to keep track of what page we should be on right now as we are reading along with the pacer. Remember, this is a speed reading pacing program that goes along with you as you are reading the book. And so that's kind of how I've designed the program, is to keep you tracking with what your goal word per minute count is. And so that page counter will continue to go based off of your starting section and continue on as you continue reading. And you have a goal page count on the book there. So on this step, your goal is to get to page 30, because that's about where you want to be in line with your goal words per minute. So at the end, you'll see there's a timer at the top. The end, there's 2 ways that this ends. One is you hit to page 30, which is your goal, or the timer runs out. And that kind of lets you know that you need to take a break or you need to recalibrate some settings here. So you go through and say, I get to page 30, okay, great, next page, or next step rather. Now we've got another break, and then this is another time to take notes, to look at what you've read, and kind of continue going on. So now we're done reading this section, we press next, and you'll see there's a preview for the next section. This is going to be pages 39 to 60 or so, and then we go through, we preview, again, same thing, first paragraph of each chapter, each first sentence of each paragraph, and you're just going to skim through that, and eventually you kind of repeat this process until you're done the book. And part of the speed reading thing is you don't want to read everything at the same level of comprehension and the same speed, depending on your goal for reading. You see, I've got a purpose at the top of the bar here that's trying to remind you of your purpose for reading this book. Now, I've already gone through this book and I'm doing this as an example to show you, but my initial goal was just to learn how I could stop being distracted, maybe learn a new productivity technique or two, something that I've used some of the techniques that this book talks about, but I ended up getting to the later sections of the book where they were talking about specifics for workplace environment, for working in a cubicle, and for relationships and raising kids. And I don't have kids, I'm not in a relationship. That information might be great later, but I don't need to read that right now. So what I do is I simply just skip it, because my goal for reading right now is to learn more about how to not be distracted and how to keep focused on my task at hand. And I'm not worried about the other sections. If I want to learn more about raising children and not being distracted, I'll read that later and I'll come back to this book with that purpose in mind. So now I can skip through all these sections, and now I've finished the book, and now we can go over some of the key stats here. Now once you're done the book, you brought up to this page that gives you just some stats about how long it took you to read the book, where you spent your time, and a guesstimate of about what your word per minute is based off of how you read the book. Now, of course, because you're skimming through and you might be skipping sections of the book, you might be reading not as many actual words but you might have a higher word per minute because you're skipping through pages, or pages might have only a title or something like that, so it might count you for reading more words than you actually did. But this is just a rough estimate of about how many words per minute you read during the course of this session. So you see, you spent a little bit more time, I spent a little bit more time in the overview section than I might be suggested. The estimates are based off of, for overview, is based off the amount of pages there is in the book. I tend to spend about 5 to 7 minutes in this section. Is just at the beginning, 1 second per each page. Then the preview, I don't really have an excuse for this. Just going through reading the first paragraph and reading the first sentence usually takes a little bit longer than about 7 to 8 seconds per page for me. So I spent more time during these sections, but you'll notice that during my reading, because my purpose was so specific during reading this book, I only spent 1 hour reading this book as compared to spending the 3 hours that was estimated for my reading word per minute goal. My reading word per minute goal was about 600, which is twice the average words per minute goal. And so the average person reading this book who doesn't use a speed reading pacer, who isn't speed reading and is just at a casual page-to-page basis, will take about 7 to 8 hours to read this book from start to finish. Now, someone who's reading at a rate of 600 words per minute, or my goal, and reading from start to end will take about 3 to 4 hours, which is that estimate there. And you see that I read through this book with my goal in mind at a higher reading pace because I had such a specific goal at around 1 hour. So of the time reading, I've gone through the book 3 times, the overview and then the preview and then the actual reading, as well as review for taking notes. So I've gone through the book basically 4 times in 2.5 hours as compared to reading the book once in 8 hours. And that's basically the goal of this program, is to help with the learning cycle and help with learning process and kind of shave down a lot of excess time. I really love this because it adds a gaming element to reading, which is the pacing part. It's like you're trying to set a record for yourself. You're going through, you have a goal. Okay, your goal is to get this many coins or this many pages in this specific amount of time. So it's like going through Mario or any other game. You're setting goals, you're spending a lot of time and curiosity. Can you get through this? You're setting yourself little check marks, and there's nice little dings as you finish through the book as well. So that's basically the gist of my program. I have spent a lot of the time in research and development for this. I spent about, as I said earlier, about $80 buying myself an online course and walking through this. And then I spent probably a good 7 months of researching and reading about speed reading. And then I spent about 3 weeks of just development time building this program. So yeah, that's my program. I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be releasing this unless there's overwhelmingly positive, please, I need this program. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks. See you around.